Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and my dog Ada in the background. She just jumped on the sofa to join us. And on the other end is Mike Chalice, of course. And as ever, we jump on a call and typical, is this just British behavior? I think it's just human behavior. Ask how one another are. And Mike is like, I'm great. Of course, Mike's great. He is always great. And Mike was like, how are you? And I'm like, eh. Just one of those days, you know. I feel tired, and I don't know. Do you ever have those days, Mike? And asking you feel like the wrong person, but just feel dissatisfied with how the day's gone in terms of like, I feel like I wish I could have been more productive. I wish I could have done more. It's normally work related for me, where I'm just like, it might not reflect the same for you because you're not self-employed in the same way. And you're a bit more busy than me, maybe. But I sometimes have lulls in my days where, I don't know, it might be less people have checked in for whatever reason, or their check-ins have just been shorter. And then I'll just have gaps in my day, which there's always something I can do to fill it with, whether that be further education or some more content or whatever. But sometimes I'm just like, can't get my teeth into anything, and I just can't get my head in the right place to be able to do it. So I'm just like sat here staring at my screen, like, doing stuff, but like not really being productive, and I'm actually would be better off just taking a break. I don't know if you ever have times like that, Mike.
Every day, Steve. That is me every day. I feel like there is just something I can be doing more of, I can be doing better of. Like further education is a great example for me as well. Like I really want to, I don't feel I make time to read as much research as I want. So, like, I'd love to be able to read maybe, even if it was like 1 or 2 research papers a week, which sounds like so easy to do. And you just think, how can you not do that, Mike? But somehow, like you said, time gets filled up with something else. And so, yeah, and also I'll get other things. So, for example, in my clinic work, I might have a gap where a patient isn't booked in. And I might think, great, I can do an Instagram post in that time. And somehow I'll be writing patient notes in that block, and I'll think, and then I won't have time to do an Instagram post. And I think, man, like I had this long list of things that I wanted to do or I could have done, and I've not done it. So I get that every time, basically.
It makes me feel really shit when that happens. I don't feel good about it at all. Like, I've done what I needed to do, which is like, when I reflect upon that, like, hey, I've done like the things that actually matter, and anything above that would have been bonus, right? And actually, if I think about it a different way, once I'd done the things that mattered, I could have just chilled out and, like, watched anime or had fun doing something else. But I kind of beat myself up about it because I'm like, no, I should be, up until basically Charlotte's home, I'm working. Like, I should be working. That's what I have in my head. Like, I should be doing something productive. But yeah, sometimes it just, I get those days where I just feel like, didn't quite feel like I was as productive as I'd like to be. But hey,
I think there is also something to what you said about sometimes it's like when you're trying to revise for an exam, you think, I'm just going to revise like constantly the whole day, when the reality is our attention and concentration is going to wane, and we're better off just taking a break, and then we're going to be more productive when we come back to it. So I think there is also an element of like, don't just cram everything in. It's okay to take a break. But I say that, but do I do it myself? Maybe not all the time. / a lot.
I was going to say, what was your approach to revising for exams?
I was just totally in my room, like just book in front of me, writing notes. That was it.
Yeah, because it's funny you mentioned it, because my approach to exams was always and has always been revise as much as physically possible. And I can remember even having it in my head, like, because I lived in a house, 1 year at least, I was in a house renting with others, and just knowing that I woke up before everyone in my house and was revising, and they'd all be downstairs chilling of an evening, and I'd still be in my bedroom revising and being like, yes, Like I have outworked them. I remember at school as well, I'd be revising. I think I had in my head, like thinking about it now, I think 10 hours a day was my goal of revision a day. And my mum was so concerned about my GCSEs because she was like, if he doesn't do well, I don't know how he's going to respond because he has pushed himself to like the limit of how much she was like, you've revised as much as anyone physically kind of could. Thankfully, I did actually do well. But that's always just been my mentality, is just like, do everything I possibly can to get the best outcome I possibly can, to a fault, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I was so similar, particularly at university. I would like exactly the same as you. I'd be in a shared house, and I'd literally lock myself in my room, like door would be shut, and it would just be me and work. Like in my head, my breaks were going to the gym, my like even meals, I wouldn't really take a break. Like I might still be reading stuff maybe. The only break that I had would be like my last meal, and I'd watch like maybe something on bodybuilding.com or something, like the Mr. Olympia or a vlog or something. That would be like my only break. And then everything else was just revising constantly.
It kind of mirrors how I have my days now. Wake up, work, go to the gym, come home, work. Charlotte comes home of an evening, have dinner. Then I like chill out for a couple of hours and then back to work the next day. And so, yes, the gym is my break. Yeah, I never stopped training despite revising and how important that always was. I was like, I'm not going to train. Like, I think I realized that it was that important to me back then as well for just functioning as a human. So, yeah, interesting how I cannot relate to people that revise last minute or anything like that. Even back then, I can remember people like, literally they'd revise through the entire night. They'd be in the library overnight revising and stuff like this. I was like, I can't not sleep. Like I've got to sleep. Like I'd never crash like that. I don't even remember thinking sleep was that important back then, but still I was like, clearly there's some sense of just physical awareness that it isn't worth like not sleeping.
Like I, rightly or wrongly, I've never pulled an all-nighter. Like never.
Nah.
Because even back then I was just like, I'm not sacrificing my sleep for, I'm not sacrificing my gains basically. It was so funny.
What about an all-nighter, not for revision purposes, but because you're just out all night? Have you ever done one of those, Mike?
Probably once or twice, maybe, or more than that. Yeah, probably at some stage. Not a lot though. Like I could probably count on one hand how many times I've done it.
Yeah, I can as well. I have vivid memories though of there was this nightclub that was relatively close to home, and we obviously stayed past midnight, and the sun was coming up. And I don't know why this happened, because I would imagine there were taxis, but I just remember I didn't get a taxi, and I walked home with a random guy who also lived in my hometown, and we just walked home together. We walked through like fields and shit, and I was just like, what the heck? Like, I just remember, like, thinking back to it now, I was like, what was I even thinking? Like, just, I don't know. Just, you do some crazy stuff when you're younger, and you're just, that ignorance is kind of bliss in some ways. Like, I had no idea how bad alcohol was, for me in that sense. And, yeah, staying up a whole night, and you just, I don't know, what do they say? You're made of rubber and magic back then. So,
yeah. Oh, it's kind of reminds me of this part of like growing up, really, in a way. I actually got hospitalized once for
I think you told me this
alcohol.
actually. I was shocked.
Yeah, I know. And it was my first alcohol experience where, like, you start going out and you start drinking alcohol. And in the UK, I don't know if it's still available, but there's like this cheap cider you can get, which is called White Lightning, I think. But it's just basically very cheap cider. And I think I got something like a 2-liter bottle. And I drank it so quickly, and I just remember like not like everything, just the world started spinning and I just crashed, and then I woke up in hospital with an IV drip in my arm, and then my dad was there and he walked me home. I was like, oh gosh.
So that was the first time you ever drank?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mike, you went in.
I know. I know.
Damn it.
I know. And the crazy thing, I didn't go to hospital, but it did happen again, to the point where I just completely paralytic and passed out completely.
Uh, I
Yeah,
think
but
I've
that
only
was
been
risky.
paralytic once,
Y-
and that was on
Yeah,
my
one.
18th.
Mm,
And
okay.
I can't fully remember it. And but yeah, that was when I turned 18. And obviously, when you turn 18, everyone's just buying you a drink. I remember we went bowling at like 4 p.m. and my friends bought me shots of vodka for bowling, and then we went out for dinner, and I had like pints with curry. And I can't remember from that curry. And then we went to a pub. I can't remember any time at the pub. We were there for hours, and I was like dancing with people, and there's videos of me like trying to dance with people. And anyway, my sister ended up coming to town and picking me up, and I was sick in the car. And then my dad was like disowning me. And I woke up at like 4 p.m. the next day, just like, what's happened?
Yeah.
Like, I feel terrible. And last time I remember, I was getting curry. So I'm like, it's truly screwed up what alcohol can do to you. But we sound like we're a little bit all or nothing type of people. It gives you a bit of a insight into our mentality with things.
We go all in, all in.
I
Commitment,
wonder if other
maybe.
bodybuilders are like that.
It would be interesting. I'd be really interested to, because have you heard of that research study about athletes or Olympic athletes where they would be presented with a choice of a red pill or a blue pill? Blue pill would be like they could live to a ripe old age, but they might not necessarily win their sport, but they'd live to a ripe old age and be healthy. But if they choose the red pill, they'd live a shorter life, but then like they would have, they'd win, have lots of success in sport. And the majority of athletes would pick the red pill, apparently, if I'm remembering that rightly, something along those lines.
I haven't heard of that. That is interesting. Yeah.
But it's
It
just
makes me,
that.
it just immediately makes me think about being natty or not.
I know it
It's a
has
little
so
bit
much
like that.
like relations, because it's interesting though, and I reckon you're probably the same, where I obviously I wouldn't, you know, I'm not going to go enhanced or anything like that, but I still want to be the best that I can as a natural bodybuilder. So yeah, when I think about that, I think it doesn't specifically apply to me, like in some senses. And also for us, health, the great thing is natural bodybuilding and health kind of go hand in hand anyway. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a win-win.
Yeah, actually, it's so crazy. You just made me think of a post I saw, which was shared on Beyond the Stage, which was Instagram page we flagged up last week,
Mm.
and it was something along the lines of, and I'm probably going to bastardize it, but this is short content, and this is what ends up happening. Someone essentially said that natural bodybuilding is less healthy than enhanced bodybuilding, and the only way I think you could ever make that argument is if you're looking at very acute situations of like blood work, where they can obviously, when you're deep in the depths of prep as a natural, your blood work doesn't look good. Like cortisol's super high, loads of hormones are in a bad place, thyroid's in a bad place, like testosterone, all of that. As an enhanced athlete, you can obviously take things from the outside, like take drugs to give you those levels elevated and look maybe more healthy. But long term, I don't think you could ever make that sort of argument unless you count someone who otherwise would have like clinically low testosterone and versus someone on like a low dose TRT to keep them in healthy range. Yeah, then you can, but that's not natural versus enhanced. That's someone with poor health versus someone taking like a therapeutic dose of a PED or whatever, So yeah, it's just my mind boggles when I see posts like that.
I think again you could snapshot any sport, like, because I often think to athletics, like if you look the at the Olympics and the athletics guys, like the majority of them, they're probably not in the healthiest of states either, to be honest with you. So I think anything snapshotted a bit out of context, can be unhealthy its extreme.
What about athletics at that level's not healthy? I'm not sure.
Well, I think a lot of them, they would have been training super hard up until that point. Sometimes a lot of athletics athletes, they're in a bit of red S anyway. There's a lot of work. I think there's a lot of work anyway going into general sport to prevent that. But I think sometimes it's a tiny bit of an inevitability anyway. Athletics, they're always looking to maximize that strength to body weight ratio, particularly for maybe those lighter sports, again, endurance sports as well. So I think when they're at that peak of that competition, I doubt whether a lot of them are at their healthiest. I think it's probably so much better, and I could be totally wrong about it now, but I think at a certain point, you know, at least in the past, that was probably the case, maybe.
Yeah, it's the reason I ask is because a lot of for bodybuilding, the reason we get into red S as like an inevitability really is because we're getting to unsustainable levels of body fat, and we're not a performance sport. Whereas for performance, you don't, like, a lot of the red S symptoms are negating performance. So I'm like, maybe there's a fine line that they're skirting there. But I know, for example, gymnasts, they often, especially, I think particularly the females, but probably males as well, like they really constrain their body weight, and like they almost, I've actually watched documentaries on this, but I can't remember it precisely. But like they want to keep them, like their height and everything, they need to be quite short in stature and stuff. So they might even try and like hold that growth back, which is kind of wild, isn't it? So yeah,
Totally.
but I agree with you. Any sport taken to the extreme is like, there's going to be unhealthy moments in it, but it's healthier to be not using heaps of PEDs.
For sure, 100%. There was something that I was going to say, but it's totally gone out of my head now. But yeah, wild. But I think, again, coming back, I think for the majority of the time, natural bodybuilding is probably one of the healthiest things you can do, at least. But what has been happening? Has anything been happening for you this week at all?
No, not really. I've just got into week 3 of my new split, which is an upper lower. If people are interested in that, I'll probably do an entire YouTube video. I am planning to. This is something that I did do today, which I'll give myself a little bit of a break, is I managed to record and edit a new YouTube video, which is now live on the members site and will go live on YouTube soon. I look at it and I'm like, I wish I'd done this, but hey, better to get something out there than focus on being like a perfectionist in that sense. So it's for hamstring growth, basically, because I've done one for back, chest, quads, now hamstrings. So that'll be there. What was I saying? Yeah, so eventually I want to do a YouTube video, and it might be pretty damn long, where I basically cover my entire split and every exercise that I'm doing. So it might end up being literally like an hour long, but I'd love to do that because I think I'm going to be running an upper lower split for the vast majority of my off season now, just because I think it makes sense for what I'm trying to achieve. And like I said, last time I'm enjoying it. And last time we spoke, I had done that lower body session, which I'm really enjoying, with the straight leg deadlifts at the start, with the pendulum squats. Those two movements, I just feel like there's something about this, that whole question of like optimal versus like fun and enjoyment. And I really think fun and enjoyment come into optimal, because that deadlift is just freaking fun. Like, and lifting heavy shit is just fun. And I'm enjoying that kind of like going in there and be like, what can I do? Like, let's go and see. I'm not lifting like triples or like a single, but I'm like, it's 8 reps. And I mean, you could argue it's optimal for hypertrophy. In many ways it is, but at the same time, it's like, just like kind of rip and grip and go for it. If I get a bit of lower back rounding, I'm cool with it. Like, I get some erector stimulus, I'm fine with that. If it beats me up a bit more than this kind of quote unquote biomechanically optimized lift, I'm like, hey, I'm all for it. Like, it's just building resilience for me. And then the pendulum squat, I'm actually performing it probably quite similar to how you are, rather than like sinking it, not letting my heels lift either. And I'm just coming down as low until I get maximal knee extension, basically. And there's a bit of hamstring to calf, but not like comprehensively, like scissoring hamstring to calf. And dude, like the tension I feel through the quads, and trying to focus more on like internal rotation, yeah, I guess that's what I'm talking about, versus external. So not pushing my knees out, but thinking more straight, and if anything in, is just helping me keep it more to the quads. And I can really feel it as I approach failure, that my glutes and my adductors are trying to kick in, but that's when I'm like very certain to try and keep it on the quads. And yeah, it's just the amount of tension I'm feeling through the quad is just stupendous. So I'm really enjoying that.
It's got to be good, right? Like, if you're sensing that amount of tension and stimulus, you've just got to think, I'm doing the right things, or at least, you know, in accordance with my goals. And, you know, when you were talking about the deadlift just then, would that be right in thinking like, this is exercise for the soul, like exercises that fuel your soul? Like, That's what comes to mind. And I'm so similar. Like, I think that's what I was loving so much about the stiff-legged deadlift, and to a certain degree, the good mornings now as well. Like, just lifting some heavy shit, and also just put on a good tune, like good tune that just gets you like in the groove, and just lift some heavy shit, and it's like, this is great. I love it. So good.
But yeah, apart from that, not too much has happened, I don't think, for me this week. I can't really think of anything. Trying to think if there's anything interesting.
Did this might have been the previous weekend, but I think you were taking Ada for her a bit of chemo as well, a new set of chemo, or maybe it was the same one, but
So she's on a few drugs. I can't name them. She's on a steroid tablet as well at the moment. So she just started a new round, but it's orally from home. So I have to put on like gloves, and I like cover this like chemo tablet in peanut butter, and I shove it in her mouth, and she eats it. So unfortunately, actually, I literally said like, wish us luck with it, because it was she had a 12-day course of it, and she seemed fine. Some dogs don't do well with it, and she was due another 12-day course. Man, this 12-day course, it costs like £600 for this for the days, which is just wild to me. I know I've spoken too much about the financial side, and it's a bad kind of personality trait of mine is to focus too much on finances sometimes. But regardless, I'm trying to work on it. She was sick after the first day, unfortunately. It was really weird. Like, she came up to me in bed. I was in bed, and she came up to me in the middle of the night. And then I just heard her at one time, like, get up. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And she went under the bed. And I was like, well, that's not a good sign. When she does that, that's like her safe place is under the bed. And then I could just hear like some licking. I thought she was just like licking herself. And I was like, oh, like, do you need to be let outside to like go for a wee or something? But there was sick under there. So she'd brought up her like dinner at some point, and she was eating it, Mike. So this is just dogs do this sort of thing. Any dog owners will be like, yeah, dogs do this. I was like, I have no idea when she was sick. But anyway, so yeah, unfortunately, I think either she ate something off the floor and made herself sick, or the drug did. So we just skipped a day, and she's been fine since. She's picking up she is farting solidly. She's on my lap right now. So she seems to be dealing with it well now. Okay. I can't remember when our next appointment is, but they haven't been quite as frequent recently. But I think she's only like maybe a third through all of the chemo that could potentially happen for her. Okay. On the last results we got with her, they said she was disease stable, which means she hasn't got worse, but she hasn't got better, which is, take it for what it is. So she'll be due to get some more blood work, and I think a ultrasound soon. I don't know if it'll be our next appointment, like next week or the week after, and that'll give us an idea as has it got worse or has it got better. As of the moment, I think I've said this, you wouldn't know she was unwell at all. She's completely herself, apart from of the evening where she barks like crazy at Charlotte. And she's still, to some extent, doing that, where it's very hard to manage and know why. But there was one night, Charlotte was out at a festival in London in Victoria Park, I think it was, on Sunday or Saturday, can't remember which day. No, Sunday. And basically the bank holiday, because it was bank holiday Monday, right? Mm-hmm. I'm rambling here, but Ada was with me the whole night. She came and she was downstairs, didn't bark once. And as soon as Charlotte gets home, bark, 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 bark. So it's really sad, because Charlotte kind of feels like she hates me. And it's like, I don't think she hates you. It's just something has triggered her. So anyway, that's the update on Ada. So generally doing pretty decent, I think. We don't fully know at the moment.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting. Your head goes to like, when she barks, like, is it just because it's something new, something novel? But obviously Charlotte's like home every day.
Nothing's changed. Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
So, weird one. We actually tried reducing the steroid dose in half to see if that would help, but it doesn't seem to have helped, because I wondered if it was related to that, because that was something new, but doesn't seem to have helped. How was your week? Did you have the bank holiday off? I'm guessing you did.
I did have the bank holiday off, so that was really nice. Again, very little. Again, great example of like, hey, you've got the bank holiday, you could probably do some things. I think what did I do? I woke up later. I went to the gym. I came back and I made an Instagram post. And then I think I did a couple of other bits and bobs, and that was it. So like nothing basically. So it's
Like
like, whoa,
it's
wait.
just like another weekend day, basically.
Pretty much. It was just an extra weekend day. What I did do, I tell you what I did do. So normally like Sunday is reserved for a lot of like house chores, like I'll clean the house, do some meal prep and stuff. So I didn't do what I didn't do any meal prep. So that's what I did do actually. So I did my meal prep on Monday instead of Sunday, and Sunday was a much more of a chill day where I was just like, yeah, just chilling out basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my bank holiday wasn't actually that dissimilar. It was like a normal working day, but I worked more on the Sunday because Charlotte was out. So I did like 7 check-ins on the Sunday, which I'd
Oh
normally
wow,
do maybe on
nice.
the Monday. And then it meant I had very few on the Monday, so I could spend most of the time with Charlotte. And actually, Charlotte cooked what did she cook? Because we were thinking, should we eat out or should we have like something cook in? I was like, hey, we're in, we should probably cook in. And she made, I like, the way we cook together is, I don't like cooking. So I prep the veg basically, and then she cooks it. That tends to be how it goes. And then I wash up. So what was it? It was like a mushroom lasagna type of thing, but it was great. I love lasagna. It was super nice. And
Oh,
we did some garlic bread on the side as well, which was really nice. So yeah, that was decent.
oh, I love that mushroom lasagna. I've made an aubergine chili before, and that was all right. And I've
This had
self-made.
lentils as well.
It's got all the love it.
Yeah, it was good.
Do you find lentils is a dangerous food for me because I don't know why, but for me in particular, it just from a farting and toilet perspective, they just hit me
The
hard. I
fiber.
don't. Yeah, something about the type of fiber in lentils, man, it just gets to me. And you've got to be. It's not. I don't mind. It's just other people. They've just got to know. I've had lentils. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thankfully, I mean, my digestion has been so good, and I am so glad that I've really taken this very slow, progressive, gaining approach. Because yeah, I haven't touched wood. I haven't hit like a appetite brick wall at all. In fact, if anything, my appetite is still like every meal I'm ready to eat. I say I haven't got to the point where I'm like, oh, I could skip that meal. Like I'm not at all there. Every morning I'm like, yep, ready to eat. It's such a
Mm,
nice feeling. And I think that's something I try and remind, especially some of my post show guys at the moment, where they're like, should I be hungry? Like, should I be this hungry? I'm like, in a mass phase, I think, and we think we've spoken about this before, it's good to have an appetite. The
mm,
thing we should care about is, are you recovered and able to train in the gym? Is the level of hunger you're experiencing such a stress that it's taking away from your ability to sleep or function or like be productive in the gym? If it's not, then like allow yourself to have the hunger and enjoy your meals. And
mm.
if anything, just double down on wholesome, minimally processed food, eat loads of plants, a very healthy diet. So the problem is when people, especially post show, when hunger's so high, they aren't great and diligent. They allow their weight to really rapidly go up. They're in a huge calorie surplus. And then suddenly they are in that position where they're force feeding and they're eating not a wholesome diet. It looks a bit terrible. And they're like, oh, I should probably mini cut. And I'm like, like that's not the recovery we're looking for. That's like short cutting your like improvement season, your gaining phase. So anyway, that's a tangent.
Not at all. And I think you had that question on your story not too long ago, earlier this week, I think. It was a
Probably.
similar question. But it's a problem. But I was thinking as you were saying, like, that this is such a win. Like, because I remember there was kind of not the last improvement season, maybe the improvement boost season before, where you had that really, like, you got up to peak mass of like 200 pounds and it was like really bad, like couldn't
Yeah.
stomach the gainer shakes, like really bad. And then the improvement season after that, like you didn't let yourself get up to that point, but there were definitely periods where you hit that wall and then you had to mini cut. So the fact that you've totally so far like not hit that is a huge win, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is body weight related. So just being able to like slow my window seems to be once I'm about 180 pounds, I'm in like a good recovered state. That's kind of my lower intervention point. And then once I get to about 195, that 15-pound window seems to be my window. And I don't
Mm,
even know if I want to get, it depends when I compete next, but I don't know if I want to get even as high as 195 pounds. Like it's totally reasonable to get up there if I'm not competing for years. But if it's
mm.
in a, I don't know, if it's next year, then I don't know if I want to push above 190 really. So yeah, it's just and again, it's been nice to enjoy food but not feel restricted and anything like that. I am now at, I don't know when I last updated and what my food intake was, and I don't know if, because ours was similar previously, but I think I might have crept above you now. Where are you at? I should know off the top of my head, but I think you're at 3.4, 3.5, are you? Or a bit
Yeah, so
below.
3.3 to 3.4.
Yeah, 3.3 to 3.4. So I'm actually at like 3.5 to. I've been basically I hit like 3.550. I don't know why. Like I have that in my head. Like I want to hit 3.550. But yeah, so I'm up. I'm due a update on my like feed on Instagram, because I do one like every 6 weeks or so, and it's definitely been over 6 weeks. But I've actually gained more since my last update than the update before that, if that makes sense. I think I was only up about £1 from the other update, but now I'm up or half a pound even, whereas I'm up just over £1 or closer to 2 this time, where my weight's just I think this is where people trying to get too like attached to a weight that they're trying to achieve, and then they micromanage it. And I'm kind of not micromanaging it and just letting it kind of happen. And I'm happy with, I just did some under this lighting. I actually posted on my story yesterday, which I know you've seen, and I was really happy with what I was seeing. I was like, I'm holding this weight well. The areas that I've been working on are doing their thing. So yeah, I'm feeling good about that.
Like I saw that on your story, and I was like, looking good,
It was pumped post upper session, but that's I always do it after a like upper body workout. Basically, lower body you don't really want to do an update because your lower half is blown out, so you can't see any separation, and your upper body is just looking like it hasn't got a pump. So yeah, doing it after an upper body is nice.
I'm sure it was last week though. You did a front pose. You were in the gym, and I didn't message you, but it did come into my. I was like, your VLs, like general quads, are coming. Like they're definitely coming up. I think so.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, like again, as always, like even though you haven't got that shape of the VL, like you can definitely see your VL is chunky.
Yes.
Like it's chunky, but it's just like a kind of like it doesn't sweep. Yeah. So it's just unfortunate. But yeah.
Give us an update on recovery, shoulder, training, everything there.
So speaking of 6 weeks, as of today, it's 6 weeks post-injury, which for me seems a bit wild because 6 weeks again can sometimes be a bit of a milestone in some regards. But so it's 6 weeks. I've got my appointment at the fracture clinic tomorrow, so they're going to re-X-ray the shoulder to check is it still undisplaced. There's been no movement, and again, hopefully, if that's the case, so this is the stage where essentially the fracture site begins to get gooey, where it's not kind of, the bone isn't solidified, but it's kind of starting to unite. So you're getting kind of like a union phase essentially. And then kind of like, so now like during that kind of sticky phase, union phase, it's a little bit more safer essentially to do more loaded work essentially. There's less risk of the bone kind of, becoming undisplaced. Less risk of it becoming displaced. So so that hopefully, fingers crossed, that's all going to be good, and we'll just kind of push forwards. I'm still getting like a bit of pain and discomfort in the long head of my bicep, just where the tendon is still a little bit unhappy, but it's very manageable. And just generally keep pushing forwards. So it's great.
I guess all signs on your end in terms of the feedback you're getting from your body are saying thumbs up. This is what they're seeing is, well, you'd expect them to see only good things on the scan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
There's nothing. I haven't had any indication that would make me think, oh, something's not right here. So like, I can't be more happy. I think I was saying this to a client today. It's when injuries can always recover faster. You could always, you want to be better yesterday. And I'm not going to lie, like I really, sometimes if I see people and they're like training their chest or they're like training their delts or whatever, I'm like I really would like to do that more fully. But hey, I've just got to keep giving myself perspective and go like, no, you'll get there when the time is right and it'll be fine. So, and I know that when I look at myself in the mirror, my shape is still there. Someone even mentioned to me in the gym, they said, like, because I had my tank top on, they said like, oh, the injury hasn't affected your symmetry at all, has it? And I was like, oh, and this is coming from a competitive bodybuilder as well. So again, they had a good eye. So I was like, oh, that's really reassuring for me to hear as well. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I think anything lost will just, as we've said before, come back so quickly. It's just being patient in the moment, as we've said. I think I said this during your check-in, like, remember the goal right now is like recovery and growth where we can, and in that order, not growth over recovery, because that will just lead to what we don't want to happen. So you're doing great to be patient. And yeah, I think if anyone is injured and has seen you go through this, it's a great example of how to approach it from a practical and also like psychological manner. Have you got any news this week, Mike?
So, no, I've let you down here, Steve, completely.
This was your homework.
No, I was thinking this before I jumped on, and I was like, oh man, I've so let the side down. But I actually will say, I saw on Brandon Kempter's story that I think it was the NPC Malaysia, or there was an NPC show that I think maybe Brandon might have competed in, but the winner for the men's overall and classic show tested positive and has now been banned for a year. I don't know if you saw that.
I don't think I did see it. I don't remember seeing it, but I might have flipped through a story. You know, when I don't know, I flip through stories and I'm just mindlessly scrolling. But that's good that they got flagged up. In fact, you remind me of we talked about it, the PCA, and they had a couple who failed, and there was that person who appealed. I don't know what's happened there. I'd like an update, actually. I don't know if we have to. I imagine if we haven't seen anything, then it stands as it is, but maybe there's been an update, and I'd hope if they got it wrong. I mean, I don't know if they want to publicize it, but yeah, I'd be interested to know if there's been any updates on that. I don't know how long that whole process is meant to even take.
Yeah, I don't either. But you would have hoped either way, you'd want a bit of openness and transparency. It's like, hey, you've been open enough to sort of broadcast it. And hey, even if, it's definitely not good if they were wrong and the guy was clear, but equally, I think it's important to be open about it as well at the same time.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's as I said, I think if someone fails, you give them a chance to appeal. If they're appealing, you don't publicize it until you've gone through that process. Then you kind of show it, because it's just a bit of a mess for everyone involved. Any other way, it doesn't look good. Yeah, I don't have any news there's no like industry news, and nothing that at least comes to mind. And then, I mean, there's always competitions, like the BNBF Scottish went ahead. There was a WNBF Canada show, but for that sort of just like general stuff, I think people are just better off keeping up with Natty News Daily. I don't want us to just turn into Natty News Daily, basically. But I don't think there's been any particularly like new research that I can think of that comes to mind that would be particularly good to share.
You did post in the Hypertrophic Time Chamber the meta-analysis about garlic.
Yeah, I did just remember that. So it's just cool because I'm part of Examine Pro or whatever it is. I have an affiliate link somewhere, actually. But anyway, I have access to theirs, and just every week, it's similar to MASS, but they look more into supplements. They have like slightly different papers, but still related to everything we do. So it's really great. It's just every week they basically email me with the ones that I'm interested in, and I just kind of scroll through and I'm like, oh, what's interesting here? And the garlic came up as a 2025 meta-analysis, basically looking at the benefits of garlic for cardiovascular health. And it just showed that, having a high amount of garlic in your diet is a good thing. And I think having just taken their kind of summary of it is like looking for 1,000 milligrams of like a garlic supplement a day is a great thing to be doing. And it was just nice because it's something I've been doing for a good few years based off Examine, actually their recommendations, but to see a new meta-analysis and it come out like that is quite nice. And I was doing it for you. The garlic is actually like quote unquote a superfood, but it's also, I was doing it a lot for like immune support when I was looking into like, when I was sick, how could I get better? And then I found just basically, it's hard to get any supplements that really help getting recovered, but there are some that help you not get sick, and garlic was one of them. So anyway, I supplement with 1,000 milligrams of, I can't think what it is. It's just one of Amazon I get of garlic. So if people are wanting to supplement with something that might be beneficial for their health, I think garlic is something to think about.
Whether it's odorless or still have the odor? Does that make a difference?
Not that I'm aware. I
Mm.
would just go for an odorless one.
Yeah,
You don't want to stink
definitely.
of garlic. It's actually funny. A client of mine asked, they consume garlic, and they were like, "Does that count as one of my like vegetables?" I was like, "No, because you eat so little of it. Like raw veggie weight, basically, you want 80 grams for it to count, or a fruit. But if you could get pureed garlic, and maybe you could consume enough pureed, but that would be pretty potent. So yeah, unfortunately, and you have to get the amount that 1,000 milligrams of the garlic, you have to have a lot of garlic to be able to like a lot of clothes of garlic. So, and if you eat garlic, then you're okay, but then you stink to everyone else. But if someone else, I can even, if Charlotte's had like a little bit of garlic in like a sandwich on her lunch break, I can smell it on her, and I'm just like, whoa. It really stinks.
I don't know whether I probably could. I sometimes feel like I'm a bit insensitive to smelling garlic, but yeah, I'm not sure. Sometimes, like you said, some people, they can sense the smallest amount of garlic. Like if I've had the smallest amount of garlic, like sometimes my parents are like, "Oh, you've had garlic, you stink," and I'm like, "I swear I haven't had that much." But yeah.
I've actually got the paper here. It was so if people are interested, I don't think I can share this because it's on my mirroring of my iPhone on my screen. Effects of garlic supplementation on cardiovascular risk factors in adults, a comprehensive updated systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized control trials by Behrooz et al. So yeah, that's where they can kind of have a look for things. I was trying to see if it had this meta-analysis demonstrates that garlic intake significantly improves key cardiovascular risk markers, including lipid profiles, glycemic indices, blood pressure, oxidative stress, and inflammatory biomarkers, particularly in adults with unfavorable baseline risk factors. It's always the case. So it's going to have marginal benefits for us healthy folk. These findings suggest that garlic may enhance cardiovascular health in high-risk populations. So, yeah. But it's not an expensive supplement if people are interested.
Yeah. Whilst we're on the research chat, I started reading a research article from Bill Campbell's research review because I also subscribe to that as well. And I think it was in his August research review where he was talking about urolithin A, and and basically he was saying it's kind of like a postbiotic, so not a prebiotic, not a probiotic, but a postbiotic. And he was describing it as prebiotics are like the fiber, they're the food that feed the friendly bacteria, and the friendly bacteria in our bodies are the probiotics. But then essentially the probiotics, the waste products, if you will, are postbiotics. And these types of substances are things like urolithin A, and which can have positive health benefits. And so it's kind of, the article was along that lines, and I haven't read much more than that, but I thought it was, again, really interesting. So it was talking about, you've got, things like walnuts and berries and all of those types of things. Like they're like phytonutrients, and it was kind of like a subcategory of a subcategory. But basically it was an article talking about that. But basically that was one of my learning points of the week of, there are things like that are postbiotics, which again have benefits on our health.
Any practical takeaways yet from it?
I haven't read the full article, so
Mike, you're just teasing everyone now.
I'm just teasing, but
I was like waiting for you to give me a practical, like, hey, you should be eating this, or you can supplement this.
But again, it was interesting because where it was getting to was saying that the reason why people might start to hear more about urolithin A because it's showing a lot of positive benefits. And the reason why people might want to consider it, because you could again say, well, why don't you just eat again lots of fruits and veggies and nuts and so on? The reason is because some people can't sort of convert, they can't get the urolithin A from the foods because of, some people genetically just haven't maybe they're not very good at extracting it. And so for those types of people, they might want to consider a supplement with this type of, this type of thing. But again, I haven't got fully into it enough yet to give any more details. So sorry about that, folks.
It makes me think of how little we still know about the gut health, digestion, all of that. It's still, I remember talking to Gabrielle Fondero like 5+ years now on the podcast, and it was still like quite in its like new stage at that point where she'd done a PhD in the matter. And yeah, I think the thing I always think about probiotics and prebiotics, and people just assume like digestive aids that it's going to help. Like most people should have healthy digestion, but I know, for example, what's the IBS? That's just like tons of people get told they have IBS. It's like, it's just a catch-all because we just don't know the specifics of the issues people are dealing with. So yeah, it's an area to definitely keep an eye on for sure. And I'm just glad that when I'm at a body weight my body is happy with, my digestion is just fine. My digestion is not good when I start pushing my weight too high, which is, that's when I was looking to get, I forget what it's called, an endoscopy, I think it was, or a colonoscopy, one of those, where they were going to just like check the insides to see what was wrong. And thankfully I booked in and then cancelled it because I started dieting and everything solved itself, which is good. That actually, one small part of news that I'm just going to flag up just to see if people are interested, to see if you've seen it, Mike, because what you mentioned made me think of it. Have you heard of David Bar? It's a protein bar.
A David Bar? No, I don't think, it's not ringing a bell.
I think Peter Attia, Peter Attia? I think it's his company and his bar. And basically it's like a protein shake in a bar in terms of macros. Like it's unbelievable in terms of the nutritional profile. But I think they had like a lawsuit against them or something, because one of the reasons they can get such a bar with the low calories is because they use one of these, like, it's essentially like artificial sweeteners to fat, in terms of you use like a aspartame to get the sugar and the taste that you would without the calories. And they use, I forget what it's called, but they use an ingredient that gets you like the fat feel without the calories. So for whatever reason, I think it's like it's from plants of some kind, and it's just like your body can't digest it and it just comes out. But I think there's been something put against them for that, like a lawsuit for them. But also a lot of people are not happy with that company because they bought out the company that is the producer of that, and now other companies can't use it in their foods, because I think it's in a bunch of those, like, I don't know, weight loss style foods. But it's just interesting that there is even something that is like an artificial sweetener for fats. Imagine that, because that's 9 calories per gram. Like, we're saving 4 per gram, obviously, with the aspartame there versus like having some sugar in there. But fat would be like, that's wild.
It's
food
huge.
science.
Oh, totally. Where does your head go with those sorts of things? Do you think, again, it's a tool, it's something which could be useful, but again, we shouldn't be maybe overly reliant on it? Like, where do you kind of sit with that sort of thing?
Yeah, I go back and forth. I definitely think my general stance is the dose makes the poison. So like artificial sweeteners, I honestly consume quite a lot in my day, because I have flavored creatine. It's in like a Monster I consume. I normally have a diet soda a diet drink as well. Soda, I'm so American. A diet pop, and then like it's in. Did I say protein powder? Then it's in some like if you have a protein yogurt, there's probably some in that. Like you can't escape them. They're all over the place. If you have chewing gum, you'll find them in there. So they're certainly helpful for making food more palatable. And they have like a use case there, because that would be a lot of sugar that I'd be consuming, and it would make my diet a lot less enjoyable if I didn't have those tools. And the dose to make the poison would be a very high dose. But again, they're relatively new in terms of like sugar's been around how long? Like a long, long time. So it's just, there's always that side of just caution with stuff like that. That I'm always just like, hey, don't abuse it, don't take it too far. For example, I would say abusing it would be like using buying packets of stevia and like putting that over loads of meals, or even eating like a pack of stevia, for example. I think there's something to sticking to the basics, like. But again, you don't. I'm definitely not on that pendulum of like going all the way to like that naturalistic fallacy, thinking natural foods are better, minimal kind of ingredients are better necessarily, because food science and we've got to where we are as humans as a race because of evolution and knowledge. So yeah, that's where my head kind of goes, where I'm like, I'm a bit risk averse generally. But as I get more convinced by data and experience, I'll lean into something a bit more with knowledge is power, basically.
Definitely. Yeah. I I just find it really interesting because, again, me personally, I always like to think I'd be open and pragmatic. Like, hey, it's a tool. Like, if it helps the process a little bit, great. Like you said, with artificial sweeteners, like if it gives you enjoyment in your life because you can enjoy some nicer, sweeter tasting meals, but it doesn't come at the consequence of health or, the goal that you're in, I think great. But then again, we don't want to take it too far where we're becoming over reliant. And there's something good sometimes to having a bit of bland, plain food because it makes the good stuff taste nicer. Um, so I think there's a middle ground with these sorts of things, and it's a tricky area to navigate as food science gets ever more sophisticated and better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that open-mindedness that is key, and not being needlessly dogmatic or restrictive in any way, but also recognizing, I always try and recognize that just general biological rule of like with every gimme there's a gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, there's not many things like just come with only benefits. There's normally some downsides, and that's where kind of the dose makes the poison, I guess.
Totally.
Cool. Questions or anything else?
No, I do just, I did want to say so tonight, I'm probably going to finish Hunter x Hunter. So I've got 3 episodes left, so I'm probably going to finish it tonight.
That's what you did on the bank holiday. You binged Hunter x Hunter.
That's it. And do you know what? I must say, I wasn't sure about it because the Chimera Ant arc finished, and yeah, I'm not sure what to make of it. I would say I do think Naruto is better than Hunter x Hunter. I think I would place Naruto above it, but it's been enjoyable. Do I wish there was more of it? Yes. I feel like they could have done more with a lot of things. But hey, it's been enjoyable, and I think on to Attack on Titan after tonight, I think.
Because I know your humor, I can see why you particularly like Naruto. Whereas the bits that you probably laugh out loud at, I'm like sitting there like, oh, this is so cringe. So I'm like, But can I speak to Hunter x Hunter? The relationship between Gon and Killua, that friendship is pretty special, right? Did you get that?
For sure. Definitely.
And the character development, particularly of Killua through the series, was pretty cool.
Definitely. I wish they'd have done more with his lightning ability, though. I think they could have done more with it.
I didn't love that.
Did you not?
No, it just felt a bit, I don't know. I liked it. I liked it better when it's like in his hands and stuff versus when it made his body just become like Godspeed and all of that sort of thing. I don't know, but I will say I appreciated Hunter x Hunter because I think I felt similar to you, where I was like, I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it after seeing it all. But after I don't know, seeing a few clips like on as reels on like Instagram and stuff, and like revisiting it and watching it again, I was like, oh, actually, like I really do appreciate that it's a good storyline, and some of the intricacies of their different abilities. I forget the Nen abilities and stuff like that was pretty interesting. So yeah, it's definitely different to Naruto, which is good. I would say it's a little bit more, in parts, a bit more adult in terms of like it's a bit more dark and
for sure
stuff like that, which some people like, some people won't.
What do they call it when? I feel like when I can't think of the name, but there was a lot more like with with some of the female characters. There was a lot more. This is gonna sound so bad, but like brandishing of flesh kind of thing. Like there was. I think, like you said, it was a lot more adult. I think some of the female, like how they characterize some of the females, I was like, okay, this definitely wasn't the case in Naruto.
Did you see Tsunade?
Yeah, but that she had robes on most of
Massive
the time.
tits.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it didn't feel as like
Did you
I was
listen
gonna
to the
say
pervy sage?
yeah, I did. It just didn't feel like I remember that like one of the beginning episodes in Hunter x Hunter. Like I think her name was like Menchie or something. She was like the food hunter, and she was like when they were doing the hunter exams, like she was one of the hunter examiners, and she was just like she pretty much just had a bikini on, and I was just like, oh, this is different from Naruto.
As you get deeper into anime, it gets a lot more
Yeah.
like this is. I don't know what it is. Guys who like weeps will know better than I do. I can't, and I mean that in like a nice way, calling you a weep, because I don't know the insides and outs. But it's like what's his name in Dragon Ball? Why have I forgotten his name? He taught Goku initially. Why can't I remember his name? Beard, blood coming out of his nose whenever he sees a Bulma, basically.
Oh my god, this is so annoying.
Sexualized is the word you're looking for, by the way, I think.
Grandmaster something. Anyway, Master
What-
Roshi.
Yes, Roshi. Yeah, Master Roshi was like a pervert as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like a thing in animes. And like Bulma was sexualized, of course. But
Yeah.
it's funny you mention this because in the one I'm watching right now, The Seven Deadly Sins, which I'm actually really enjoying. I didn't quite get into Bleach. I might retry it, but To Seven Deadly Sins was on Netflix, and I've started season 1. And the reason I watched it is because I've been seeing shorts on Instagram, and there's some clips that just look badass, and I'm just like, that's fucking cool. So I was like, I'll watch this. And I was going to say, yeah, it's very like sexual. Basically, he's like squeezing her boobs in like the first episode and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's so weird that anime does this. I don't understand why there's like that element that goes on, but yeah, I don't think it's so much in Attack on Titan. I think they don't really lean into that at all. It's mostly just very serious. Whereas, yeah, a lot of animes, there's quite a lot of like slapstick, like humor, and like you're kind of like, oh, it kind of takes you out of the story a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But there you go. So that was the only other update I wanted to say. I have
Cool.
to say, like, I finished it.
Right, should we get to questions?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I will ask you the first one because the third one is for you for sure. So Coach Ryan Morgan, my man Ryan, he's in peak week at the moment. He is looking fantastic. We're on 500 grams of carbs today, which is exciting. On recording this, he will have competed actually. On release, sorry, not on recording. So yeah, this was a bit of an early show for him. Anyway, I won't talk about Ryan for too long, but he's looking great. He said, would you rather never be able to progress your physique or never be able to progress your knowledge on hypertrophy?
Oh, I think I would probably go never be able to progress your knowledge on hypertrophy. So does that mean you couldn't listen to others and learn more? So I couldn't listen to you, I couldn't listen to Eric Helms, and
You could, but you wouldn't take it in.
But then at the same
You'd be
time,
just like this dumb thing listening to things and like, oh, it all goes over my head. I have no idea what they're talking about.
but hey, at the same time, if I was still, that also doesn't mean that I wouldn't be able to progress my knowledge in other areas. But if I could still progress my physique, yeah, I think I would choose maybe never to progress my knowledge on hypertrophy.
I think you can overthink this question and like you can really deep it. And I think that's probably not the best way to approach it. Selfishly for me, I would want to not learn more about hypertrophy and just progress my physique. But when I try and deep the question, I'm like, but progressing my physique, I'm probably going to learn some things. And also, if I can keep progressing my physique, clearly I know enough to be able to like do a lot. How much more are we going to learn? I don't know. There could be heaps, right? But yeah, selfishly, I just would want to keep progressing my physique.
Yeah.
And not so much the knowledge side. So yeah, just being honest. Next question.
Yeah. Right. Sophia.in the gym asks how to teach barbell back squat form, especially when they have trouble keeping upright and achieving proper depth.
Great question. So I think you might just, I forget what it's called, where you basically pull it back, basically find easier ways into teaching the same mechanics of the movement. So like a regression of a barbell back squat would be doing like a goblet squat is typically a really good regression, because a lot of people, it centers them and makes them balance well by holding the weight in front of them, and they can sink it really deep. And so they can get that kind of feeling for the mechanics nicely. In terms of then progressing to like a barbell back squat, you can always use things like what's it called? A bench, and do like a bench squat or whatever it's called, where you squat to is it called a bench squat? What's it called?
Box squat.
Box squat, that's the one. But it's a bench, so I kind of call it a bench squat. Yeah, box squats type of thing. So you can slowly like reduce the height of that, so they get more and more comfortable with things. You mentioned so keeping upright. So yeah, the goblet squat's really good for that. Also, front squats are really good for forcing people to stay upright, because as soon as you go forward, you collapse. So that will really help. And also consider just their mechanics. Like, are you playing around with foot width? The stance there can make a tremendous difference in terms of like femur length, wider or narrower. What do they need there? It might be that you're going too narrow for them, so they have no room to kind of sink into. And then raising the heel. Most people need a heel lift to squat like to depth well. So I would consider trying that. So yeah, start with the goblet squat, a bit of a front squat, and then do have a play around with stance width and raising the heel. I think those would be some of my go-to ones initially. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think the things that I would just add to that is maybe also just not always looking for perfect textbook form, because some people, depending on the age of the person as well. So if you're dealing with more of like a middle-aged office worker who's never been in the gym before and you're trying to teach them mechanics, hey, they've got a lot of background history where they're going to be stiff in certain areas. Maybe some joints, some areas don't have the mobility needed to be perfectly upright with their torso. So like you said, Steve, you might want to play around with stance width, etc. Maybe they need other accessory exercises to help give them the sort of physical qualities, but also learning qualities to be able to do something like a barbell back squat. Are they just, and due to their structure, they just might not be able to stay as upright as you would ideally like them. So I think there needs to be, with something like this, you need to have an element of pragmatism when you're viewing the individual in front of you. If it's like a 15-year-old or something, and they've got great mobility, they haven't got an injury history, etc., then sure, absolutely. But I think always take into account the individual in front of you.
Good example of this is looking at like Lane Norton. Look at him squat. I mean, he stays upright sufficiently for the squat, but I mean, he's quite Good Morning-esque, if you will, versus like a Mike Israetel. Mike Israetel has just been built for high bar back squats. He can stay perfectly upright like an Olympic lift, whereas Lane Norton, due to his anatomy, he can't do that. So it's exactly as you said. I think some people have like textbook form in their head and it should look like that, and there's always going to be individual difference, and so long as it's safe, like you can be fairly confident. So nice. Shall I get to the next question for you?
Do it.
This is from Teddy Gross _official. Question for Mike: how does one, and this relates to right at the start of the podcast, how does one become such a positive person? How do you not let life get to you?
I think also, I just want to kind of, I guess, first say that sometimes being a positive person isn't all good. Like you've kind of said to me in the past, actually, it's okay sometimes not to be okay. So I just kind of want to add that caveat in there. And I definitely have down days, but I just think it's like when I come to think of it, hey, we're only going to live for a short period of time, and hey, we're more probably lucky than we think we are, and I think it's just that kind of approach. Like I just much rather be positive about things and take the more optimistic approach, because I just makes life less burdensome at the end of the day. We're all going to be dead, at some certain point, and I think it's better to have a bit more of a upbeat approach during our time being conscious and above ground than it is to be, Debbie Downer about things.
Yeah, I think my only concern ever in for people like yourself, Mike, and for you is, and I never want it. If it's true, basically is, it's when if it's a front and like you feel like you have to be positive. That's when it's a concern for me. Is I'm like, hey, it's okay if you feel like sad or rubbish or like to be a bit depressed for a short period of time, as long as you don't let that exist for longer because you want to rebound, like you said, like take perspective. But if it's never a front for you and you always are like, I am great, everything's amazing, always, that's amazing. I actually feel like I wish I could be that way. It's just I can't relate to it because I just don't. And I have like my down days, but I try and rebound from it. So I don't know if, yeah, I guess, do you ever feel like you put on a front for it, or do you always actually, this is truly how I always feel?
No, it's definitely a front depending on who I'm with. So, for example, if I'm in the clinic with patients, I'm not going to say, the first thing I'm going to say is, I'm not going to say to them, oh, I feel shit today, because immediately for them, they're like, oh, great.
Would you feel okay just being like, I'm all right?
I'd say that. But I wouldn't go like into the depths of, I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm having a terrible day. But I
don't think I've ever heard you say that. Who would you say that to? Do you ever have terrible days?
I don't know if I can't say that I've had a terrible day. I probably
even when you got hit by the car, it wasn't a terrible day.
That wasn't a terrible day because we recorded the podcast, we had our chat, so that was like, and I met some good people. I met so Nick and someone else was the paramedic who treated me.
But on the day you didn't feel terrible. You were like, oh, this is actually still a good day.
Even if at the peak of so when I was in the ambulance, peak pain, they were giving me morphine. Would I have said it's terrible? For some people, they would have said that's terrible. Would I have described it as terrible? I would have probably say no. Terrible would be I'm dead.
This is where I don't understand how I would like this question because I was like, I actually don't know how you are so always positive. Because even like if you had your arm chopped off, you would somehow be like, I could have been my leg as well.
I know.
I'd be like, holy fuck, my arm is off. This is the worst day of my life.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, taking my arm would be pretty terrible, but it could be worse, couldn't it?
But it could always be worse. It can still be bad.
Yeah.
There's just scales of bad.
Is there something worse than terrible? Catastrophic.
Yeah, catastrophic. Yeah, I said that recently on a reel, actually. Yeah, man. Well, we're going to have to... I don't think we're ever going to make Mike not be positive. I've tried my best to be a grump on him, but it doesn't work. He's always positive. And somehow you being always positive makes me even less happy.
It does the opposite effect. It's irritating.
I'm just like, fuck's sake, Mike. Have a bad day. It's okay.
Is it
but no, it's good.
Is that the same situation where, like, say one of your siblings is being irritating and you just want to hit them or something because they're being irritating?
No, I don't want to hit you. Don't worry, Mike.
Okay.
Just, I think that's the key thing is, for me, it's just a case of your average person has more lows than you, Mike, and I've never seen you low, and I just want to make sure that it's not something you're hiding and it's something that you're just not feeling, which is amazing. Like, to not feel low and to be generally always positive is the best thing ever, and I love that about you. But if you were ever feeling, if it was a front or like you were, discarding it to this pot and it was just building up and it could bubble over at some point, then I'm worried. I'm like, hey, it's okay to have a shitty day and just like be a bit angry and upset about things now and then. A cry like that or whatever it is good. But yeah, sounds like you don't need that.
So I do want to acknowledge that does happen. Okay, so I do definitely have waves and moments where like I will feel sad and I will feel upset, angry, etc. I do keep it to myself, and I don't talk to a lot of people about it. But then, yeah, again, but if I was to talk to someone, if someone was to say like, I don't know, I still wouldn't convert that into feeling terrible because in my head I'm thinking, this is just something that's passing and it's kind of how I'm feeling. And yeah, I don't know, not making sense, but I do want to acknowledge that I do feel, I do go through those things. I don't not feel it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, vanilla is the best thing in the world.
You're
Mike
like,
just
vanilla?
loves everything. This is part of the
Turkey
vanilla
baguette.
thing.
Insider joke. Oh, right. Okay.
More
Next
therapy time,
question.
Mike.
I know. So, Mandart asks, do you think deficits, i.e. push-ups, RDLs, bent over rows, are better for growth?
So, not by default, no. I think this is coming from the perspective of if you can take a muscle to a longer muscle length, then you get more growth for it, like for like, versus something else. But I think this is like any one variable within a program, there's more to programming than just range of motion or this single exercise. So it's similar to, if I could think about an example, they looked at the seated leg curl versus a lying leg curl. Seated leg curls led to more muscle hypertrophy in the hamstrings versus lying, apart from in the sartorius, because the sartorius is actually lengthened more in the lying hamstring curl. And some people might take that and be like, right, I should never do lying leg curls, or maybe once in a while for some sartorius growth, but who cares about the sartorius? I don't know, bodybuilders. But generally do a seated leg curl. But when you think about the context of a program, well, you're doing hip hinges in a program. They weren't doing hip hinges, and that lengthens you to a great extent. And so you're getting a lot of additional hypertrophy there. Could you then argue that actually doing a hip hinge along with a lying leg curl, the lying leg curls being a bit more short biased, a little bit less fatiguing potentially, could that lead to more growth? I don't know. Maybe you could make a case for that. So I really find it hard to tear things apart, and I mostly see it as variations. So as an example, I've just changed from doing RDLs where I wasn't getting all that much depth. Like I was coming just below my knee. Now I've moved to straight leg deadlifts and I'm doing those all the way to the floor. Is my hamstring getting a bit more length through the straight leg deadlift? Probably, but I'm not sure I'm driving more stimulus overall to the hamstrings that way because the load is less. And so I think it's like you kind of get more growth via length, but then maybe you get a bit less growth because there's not as much load, and maybe that pulls you one way. So it's like, as long as you're getting to a longer length, I don't think longer and longer and longer is always better, if that makes sense. We don't know that just yet. So, and it's only one piece of the puzzle. That's my convoluted way of answering this.
Definitely. And to add to that point, it's like, also don't conflate total range of movement with the length of the muscle. Because again, you could go, maybe you are using a deficit push-up, for example, but maybe you're not getting any additional length in the chest because you're going into shoulder extension and your kind of shoulder is kind of going way back, and it's more stretching the anterior delt maybe a little bit more or somewhere else. Same with a squat example, like maybe you're going arse to grass, but we're not getting any additional length in the quad, and maybe it's not even, maybe the stimulus isn't as good. So I think that's an important caveat. More isn't always better. And yeah, I think like you said, I think combining it in different contexts where, you know, if you're combining a leg curl with a hip hinge, hey, you're getting length through different positions. And again, variation, a broad spectrum, I think is key for that overall muscular development. So yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah, I think it's similar to me. Just it's a variation, not like default better. I think that's a good way of putting it. Cool. So next question is from Christopher Alm. Asks, do you think the requirement for protein intake is individual? For example, Jeff, I'm assuming he means Jeff Alberts. I'm fairly confident on that. He put Jeff A, actually. Of course he means Jeff Alberts. Eating around 140 grams in prep seems just fine. Others over 200 grams, similar body weight.
Yeah, so I think from the research, we know that there is a range which is conducive for, again, muscle mass retention, muscle mass growth. But the spectrum is very broad. And I think a lot of that comes down to personal preference. Does that person like eating protein or not? And various other things. And yeah, so I think, and again, I think this was also conveyed in one of the recent meta-analysis in protein, is that where it was the paper released by Martin Breffalo and colleagues, where they said like, hey, there are different kind of categories. That's not the right word, but there are different kind of options, as it were, people can go with depending on the context and depending on their lifestyle. So again, for someone like myself, like, I love protein. I love eating protein. So whilst I could probably eat slightly lower, I do towards more the higher end because I just like eating it. And I think, yeah, so I think in answer to this question, I think to a certain degree, protein intake is a little bit individual.
Yeah, it's definitely individual, like you said. And exactly as you said, there's a range. And the research paper is effective dietary protein on fat-free mass in energy-restricted, resistance-trained individuals, an updated review and meta-regression. And yeah, I think it was a great paper. And I was just they have like some good graphs and stuff in here. And where was it, like, they had this table 3. And actually, can I share this? Oh, go away. Let's see if I can share my screen, because I think people will like that. Yeah. Here we go. So this table for the viewers on YouTube, where basically they're the fat-free mass retention rating, risk and importance, and then the recommendation. So for someone like of higher risk, you want to go towards the higher end of these. Whereas for someone who's at lower risk, you want to go towards the lower end of them. And so that's just a good table to kind of go by. And I don't know if they had they had like these graphs which kind of showed, where are we? Dietary protein intake per kilogram of fat-free mass. But anyway, essentially, it's interesting to me. And it's a great paper and people should check it out. And I actually have done a podcast recording with Martin on that exact paper, but also with Eric Helms talking about protein intakes. But it's similar. There's a similar relationship with protein as there is with volume, where it seems like with volume, more is better, and you just get vastly diminishing returns past a certain point, but there's no kind of clear cut off of it being kind of way too much. Protein is similar. So I kind of err to the side of have as much protein as you kind of can whilst not sacrificing carbohydrates and fats. So when you're in a dieting context, obviously that gets a bit more challenging. So it might be that Jeff has found, hey, he errs towards the lower end of those recommendations because that allows him to get his fat and carbs in a place where he performs better in the gym. And that overall is the thing that's most important for muscle retention. Whereas I know like Cliff Lawson, as an example, has always erred on the high end of protein intakes. And I've carried that on into my off season. And I tend to have a kind of maximal approach versus like minimum. So I wouldn't work with the minimum proteins where I can. I'm like, hey, let's try and get the most from protein we can, unless someone has preference for higher carbs, higher fat, or they're not getting sufficient of those. So yeah, there are some contexts there. The kind of leaner you are, the bigger deficit you're in, the longer you've been dieting, probably higher protein is a wise move. But also in an off season when you've got abundant amount of calories, a high protein intake can also work for you. So yeah, I would be interested to know why Jeff goes towards the lower end, because it's not like he won't know all of this. He definitely will. And I imagine it's somewhat preference based and also performance, and he hasn't seen a downside to it. So I can respect that too.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Cool.
So Remy Sarka. Hey, Remy. So Remy asks, ever had a day of crazy binges, like a 10,000 calorie day?
No. Have you ever binged, Mike?
Nope. No, not really. I haven't.
Yeah, the closest I probably got to it is probably when I was at uni or something and drinking alcohol and like, don't know, had food out, or not even at uni. I think before that. But no, I've never like had an uncontrolled binge, and definitely haven't got close to 10,000 calories. I may have touched 5,000 somehow at some point if I had like a really non well thought out day of eating. I know when I was at secondary school, I would sometimes get like a Subway and then get like 2 liters of chocolate milk. But I think I struggle to think I even ever met 5,000. Maybe on a Christmas day, but I've never been that. Even as a kid, I never ate like, some people when it's Easter, they eat like they get gifted Easter eggs. They eat all of their Easter eggs. That could easily be 5,000 worth calories of just chocolate. But I've never been that. I was never that kid. I never did that. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. Never been there.
I think similar to you, there might have been days where I've unconsciously gone there. But so, for example, when I was younger, my dad, he would like buy me chocolate bars, and sometimes I would have definitely have had 5 chocolate bars in an evening, like a double decker and a Twix and whatever. Like I might have had 3 to 5 of those confectionery chocolates. So maybe that was, but it wasn't like a binge. It was, yeah, I wouldn't describe it as a binge where I've lost control as such.
Yeah, and you'd be nowhere close to even 10,000 just doing 5 of those. Like, yeah, we're boring in that sense, I guess.
Sorry,
next
Remy.
question is from Bryce. So Bryce asks, my man, it's a client, do partials allow you to train the target muscle closer to failure since you can continue after weaker or non-target muscles have fatigued?
So, yes, I think again, I think it's probably more specific to muscles that are limited in the shortened position. So again, thinking of things like back and hamstrings, I think partials can allow you to get the target muscle closer to failure. I think that's evident, but maybe with some other muscles, potentially, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, my short answer is yes, I think they can.
Yeah, I think the second part of that is maybe where we need to have a chat, Bryce. It might be a bit of confusion. It's nothing related to like weaker or non-target muscles. It's just down to the strength and the opposite strength and resistance profile. So for example, on like lat pull downs, they are hardest where we're weakest in that short position. So if you just stopped when you failed at the short position, you could have got many more partials at longer muscle lengths where you're stronger, and therefore take that back truly closer to failure. And I personally think that might be why length and partials are showing to be more beneficial for growth, because they actually allow you to take a muscle closer to true muscular failure, just given the relationship that we've seen with muscular failure and hypertrophy generally. So cool. Yeah, next question.
The best creamy add-ins eating for PPS asks.
So for PBs, personal bests, yeah, I'm bad for this because I haven't used mix-ins for the longest time. The reason I haven't, and the only reason I haven't, is because I had my Ninja Creamy pre-bed. And as we've discussed before, I'm trying to not eat as many calories pre-bed. So I keep my Ninja Creamy just purely to the ingredients of Ninja Creamy, which is like 250 to 300 calories or something around that. I can't remember precisely. So I haven't been adding anything in, but I have previously had mix-ins, and my go-tos so far have been basically any mix-ins you add, I think have to be quite dense and hard, because I've added like biscuits before, and if you add certain biscuits, like a digestive or something, I think they basically just vanish into nothing because they just crumble away and you can't really find them. So there's a few mix-ins like that where they just kind of like, doesn't really do what you wanted it to. But adding like harder or even stale cereal, like some harder cereals work really well. So quite a lot of protein cereals, like protein, quote unquote, like Weetabix protein cereal, whatever. Or I did some others. They work well. Oh, cereal spelled Surreal is like a proper like soy protein based protein cereal, which I think you can buy in some supermarkets, not in any near me. It's quite expensive, but they have actually like a high amount of protein per serving. That works super well because they're really hard and they're very tasty. So those work well. And then nuts have been a go-to for me. They work super well, but I haven't ventured. Oh, I have tried marshmallows, but they didn't work super well, to be honest. Because I kind of wanted marshmallows to be like the fish food marshmallow, which is like melty. It's not like that. I've added like mini marshmallows and they don't quite do that. So yeah, I don't know. Have you tried many mix-ins, Mike?
I've only ever really tried nuts. Peanut butter was okay. Peanut butter seemed to work. And
that didn't vanish.
That didn't vanish too much. So that was quite nice. And with the pistachio ice cream flavored protein powder. It was really nice. So would recommend that. But
Nuts on nuts.
Nuts on nuts. It's a nutty flavor. But yeah, but apart from that, I haven't gone out there into the cereals and biscuits. Yeah. If you sort of crumbled like something like a bourbon biscuit or would even like a hobnob, like a chocolate hobnob, would that disintegrate as well?
I think you might need quite a lot of it to stay. Yeah, I've just found they kind of disappear, and I've been like, ugh. Rice cakes actually work quite well. Rice cakes, I've tried that. Those work pretty well. Just like, something in there. Right, we've got 2 more questions and 5 minutes, so let's do this. Let's get through them. So underscore Manji Machine has asked, when it comes to your own personal check-ins that you do on yourself, what does that internal dialogue sound like?
I don't know. I would say it. Do you know what? I was going to say it's not too similar to how I'm talking now. It's very much. It is just me. You're probably you'll be better to answer this than I would, but I would say it's not too dissimilar to how I am now, except I just talk about how my training's gone. I might highlight that, hey, something was off with this exercise or my performance, my weight has done X, Y, and Z, or something's come up nutritionally, or maybe my sleep was a little bit off. That's about it. So it doesn't really differ from how we're talking now, to be honest.
Yeah, the only time I've checked in was with Cliff, and his weren't super. They weren't like a recorded check-in like we do with clients. So, like with our clients, you might hear about their dog, cat, their husband, their job. Like, there's loads of like personal insights we even get that are going on. Whereas with Cliff, it was very much like body weight, like generally how are you doing. So there wasn't too much there. Outside of that, I don't really check in with myself. Like, I just go day by day and make sure I'm ticking the boxes of what I need to, and let that just play out with results. So yeah, I suck for answering this question. I don't really have an internal dialogue. Like, I'm not taking stock very often. That might be a fault of my own, even with many things in life, where I don't often enough take time to assess how things are performing and going, and then maybe deciding to make a change. I kind of assume I'm doing things right and make small tweaks along the way to keep them going well. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and who knows? Like, if you ever have a different coach or something moving forwards into next season or something, maybe that coaching experience might be a bit different, and that changes maybe.
Yeah, be interesting.
But the last question by Rene de George asks, sissy squat versus quad extension, taking into account the quad extension machine is not optimal, seat declinable, long range of movement, etc.
I think this comes back to the question we did before, where it's like, I couldn't care less about one exercise within a program. I couldn't even care less about like a single microcycle. I care about that career as an athlete. It reminds me of a question I had from a client just recently where he was like, are we missing out on anything for biceps? Because we had incline curls or something similar, like incline curls and Bayesian curls. Both of those are behind the body and they're really biasing kind of the long head. What about a preacher curl that biases some of the tissues nearer the elbow? And I was like, well, the literature isn't convincing that there is growth more proximally or distally based on kind of muscle lengths. And whereas the literature is fairly convincing that getting to a longer muscle length is a good move. So I think having exercises generally that train you at a longer muscle length are a good idea. But also remember that there becomes stale at some point, and we'll probably rotate in a preacher curl at some point. You don't have to train every single angle for that muscle in your microcycle just over your career. You want to. So there's just lots of good options, and I don't like to see people throw options out. So even if sissy squats are S tier now and leg extensions are A tier or whatever, sissy squats might beat up your knees at some point. So then you go to a leg extension, and a leg extension's great. And it beats out that one. So I just see them as great variations, to be honest. And there's so many, like sissy squats, to argue that they're better than leg extensions or quad extensions, knee extensions, whatever, you're literally just taking it from a muscle length perspective. You aren't taking into consideration like anything else. Like sissy squats, they're more technique heavy. They do require just a baseline level of strength with them. They aren't as easy to load. Like you could even find that people can't take the quad as close to failure on them because there are multiple joints involved and obviously a balance component. So yeah, I wouldn't like to say one is like better than the other. It's just context dependent, and probably both should be in your training at some point.
Totally. Like, so true. Like, like one of the first thoughts as you were saying that was like, hey, if the leg extensions were that useless, surely they would have been scrapped by, the fitness bodybuilding community years ago, but they're still here for a reason. And equally, the leg extension, you can, like, it's very variable depending on what gym you go to and what the equipment is, because you could go to one gym and the leg extension could be garbage, but hey, it will still do a job. Equally, you could go to another gym and the leg extension could be like a dream. And yeah, so I totally agree with you, Steve. I think it's variation. Never discount something. Try not to be black and white with your thinking. It's just tools in the toolbox, depending on your context.
Yeah, well said. Awesome. And with that, it's a wrap. And we're up to date with questions again, guys. So thank you for your questions. As always, Hypertrophic Time Chamber, my group over on my profile, which is linked in the description on Instagram. Come join us. We've almost getting close to 800 members in there now, which is pretty exciting. We always get a good number of questions, which is really nice, and they're always good questions. So thank you. Appreciate you for that. Anything else from your end, Mike?
No, but maybe I'll do the housekeeping today, and I'll say like, hey, remember, we are online coaches. So if you want to grow muscle, lose body fat, get ready for a photo shoot, look the best, or get ready for a bodybuilding physique competition, we are your guys. So hit us up, send us a DM, book a consultation, and we'd love to speak to you. And yeah, just drop us a question. Stay involved in the community. We love it.
And any comments on YouTube are appreciated. Thumbs up, subscriptions. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll catch you next week. Take care, guys.
See you later.